Hello friends, welcome back to Innovations in Marketing and Marketing of Innovations. Now we are going towards the later part, I would not say end, but later part of Innovations in Marketing. And the subject we are touching upon now is a very relevant and important subject which has been contemporarily dealt with for quite some time now, a decade or so. Many authors, they have written different kinds of things on this kind of a thing, and it has been seen with lots of innovative perspective also. Co-creation itself is innovation when you talk to, as far as the marketers go. But I would be giving you two different views in terms of co-creation of value. So one is co-creation of value and other is value co-creation. And I would be developing this subject around these key statements or phrases, I would say, with relevant examples also. But you have to think in terms of these two phrases distinctively. That is one part, please note down. The second part is you have to look each one of these phrases with reference to being innovative by themselves, and then I would suggest in front of you how to bring in innovation while thinking this way. So that is the objective of this discussion, and next 27-28 minutes I would be developing a story around these two phrases for you. Now, what is co-creation of value? There are several definitions associated with co-creation of value. Many authors, they have defined co-creation of value with a great deeper thought process. Lot of text is there, lot of references are there, so just go about it with and then search for it through different kinds of resources. One of my favorite authors is late Professor C.K. Prahalad, who has contributed in innovation and co-creation a lot, and then several authors, they have been talking about this. So just go to that definitional framework, the perspective, how marketers, they look at co-creation and so on. But I would not take you through the definitional framework today. I would be taking you through the perspective around co-creation of value and value co-creation. You see, when we talk of co-creation of value, the most important element is when we say co-creation of value. So we are associated, when we are talking of co-creation of value, we are associated and wish to derive value at every point. So just imagine value chains and value networks. And I have been referring to industries. Last session I talked about airlines industry and talked about the complete value network associated with that. So try and imagine value networks and value chains here, or you may think in terms of a simple progression of raw material to customer kind of a thing as well, for now. And just try to think that when we are talking of co-creation of value, starting from customers, co-creation of value mostly talks about involving customers in the process. But here I am taking you towards a step further, wherein co-creation of value is the association of all the stakeholders more or less. It also involves co-creating the brand or brand value as well. It is not just co-creating the product. It is not just that customer tells you what product customer wants and then you co-create along with the customer. It is not just that. It is that the retail partner also tells you, how handy it would be to sell this kind of a product if you manufacture this kind of a product. How easy it would be to, to demonstrate that product. It is also that distribution partner tells you how good it would be to take this product from this place to that place. And if we are talking of industrial products, then your distribution partners and retail partners are telling you how comfortable they would be in terms of serving the customers with this kind of a particular kind of a product. How innovative you can be in terms of as far as the packaging of this product goes. So you see, all these stakeholders are to be involved or to be thought of when we are thinking in terms of co-creation of value. Primarily customer, I agree, and many authors, they focus upon customer and marketer or customer and producer only. For example, you are developing a car, So you are online with the customer, or you have invited the customer on board on the plant, and you have demonstrated the design. Customer says that this should be this and this should be that, some safety measures should be there, some ease of drive thing should be there, some height adjustment should be there, and those kind of things are there, and co-creation process starts. But here that co-creation is focused upon deriving value at every point, starting from customer to others. Many a times it may start from the other side as well. For example, if you are an agri product company, it may start from your supplier or the farmer, what kind of produce they are happy to grow, and then how you would be able to process that. So, that kind of a perspective can also be there, but the question is that one, we are associating. So, the key word is that we are associating all one by one, starting from customer primarily. So, association is one, so as to derive value at every point of value chain or largely value network, if you want to imagine that. For example, if you remember the last video when I was talking about airlines, then you have to derive value for everyone involved in the process. You have to derive value for the catering company as well. Even if it is a short flight, that means you have to think in terms of the food which short flight can serve easily. For example, many a times you are going for 1 hour flight and they announce beforehand that we would not be serving hot beverages. What if you plan to serve hot beverages somehow? It is that part of the day when people require hot beverages. It's early morning, for example, it's a chilly winter morning, people are boarding the plane and you are not serving hot beverages. So, deriving value at that particular point in terms of choosing that particular airlines by that kind of a customer, it is not just that it is available at a low price, so customer would definitely choose that flight at 6 a.m. in the morning in a chilly winter season. They might think in terms of some flight is going 15 minutes ahead and they might serve so many things, so customer might end up choosing that. So, you see what I am talking about, deriving value at every single point when we are talking of co-creation of value. And for understanding this co-creation process, we have several kinds of iterations and interactions with all the stakeholders, not only the customer. For example, customer says, I want flight to be in time, I want to be comfortable, I want to X, Y, Z, but customer probably never mentions about a hot beverage at that time. And the airline support staff tells you that somehow that becomes a deterrent. Customers, they ask for it somehow. You take it as a feedback and then you try to think in terms of, you try to talk to the catering company about serving hot beverages quickly, so that customers may be able to consume it and there is no hassle as far as serving them hot beverages go. This can be an idea. You are talking about 8 to 9 flight, breakfast definitely, but short flights you are not willing to go for hot breakfast as such. Your supply chain cannot support you that way. You see, these are larger contexts. Automobile, it is very visible, apparels, it might be more visible, but when we are writing a textbook, are we involving prospective readers, or are we just focusing upon the syllabus and the content? And we are thinking that the professors would be teaching this kind of a thing, so this kind of a definition should always be there. Have we ever considered talking to the students at what kind of a definitional understanding would they like to have? A 30 hours course, how much should be the content? For example, do you want to teach everything as far as stated with that kind of a key word in terms of the syllabus of that course goes, or whatever is necessary, or do you want to bifurcate that course for different kinds of students who have different kinds of objectives in their minds for gaining that kind of a subject in due course of time? That is where co-creation of value comes in. So, defining and deriving value at each single point is the main point of concern. That is one part. Second part is, it is a deliberate, thoughtful effort. So, you see, you actually focus upon the steps. When we say it is a deliberate, thoughtful effort, so you focus upon the steps, that where would you co-create with whom to bring in what kind of a value. So, you have to quantify the value which you want to define at that point of time. Quantification can only be largely can only be thought in terms of the volume of sales and the associated revenue which you would be gaining on as far as the whole situation goes. And you see it actually is looking for a mutual ground for everyone's interest. To what extent customer would want to have XYZ within a price bracket, to what extent retailer would make extra efforts to sell your product, if at all they have to make some extra efforts, to what extent one of your growers, if you are an agri business, they want to put in hard work to define that kind of a quality. Definitely you will pay for that, but why wouldn't they go for something else? Why would they just go for this kind of a quality and work with you to actually develop that kind of a product? Some kind of a mutual co-creation. You see, large agri-based businesses, starting from coffee to other businesses, wheat flour and those kind of organizations working on that, they work with such kind of growers. McDonald's and all these organizations who want to universalize the quality of their products, they definitely work in terms of as far as their supplier goes. So, co-creation perspective is mutual ground in terms of interest, and that interest is associated with quantification at large. So, mutual interest is a major kind of a question as far as the thing goes. Many a times for not so profit making organizations, or let us say social entrepreneurship which we call nowadays, a benefit kind of a word can be thought of in terms of as far as replacing, not replacing interest, but in place of interest, and not quantifying that way in terms of sales and revenue, but quantifying in terms of the end benefits which the beneficiaries must have. All the stakeholders, they are there for some optimal gain, but larger benefit at the end of the day, and I would be talking about that. So, you see, let us say we are as I said, we are coming up with a vehicle, a course, a TV show for that matter. What kind of a TV show would customers like? What kind of a TV show the stakeholders would support? Hero Saregama, earlier it was Hero Honda Saregama. There was a show called Antakshari, and you see, ZTV popularized that show. It also gained popularity out of that show, and several singers came up because of that kind of a show to the fore. They became popular, they got chances around, and customers enjoyed, viewers enjoyed newer talent, newer voices. And then several such kinds of talent shows, they have come up in due course of time, and so many people have got involved in terms of whole of the process goes. And if you will watch how these shows are developed, you would realize that it is a spontaneous co-creation perspective which is being dwelled upon around these TV shows, all through focused upon deriving value at the end of the day. Definitely these are commercial ventures. So, advertising revenue is one of the most important thing which Indian Idol for example, Kaun Banega Crorepati for example, several kinds of shows, they have been conceived around involving so many stakeholders, definitely the viewers, and getting co-created value. So, co-creation of value comes in terms of as far as these things go. And here one thought which I want to inculcate amongst you at this moment is that, you see, when we are talking of co-creation of value, as I would not say against, but as compared to value co-creation. So, when we are talking of co-creation of value, we are thinking in terms of design of the complete process. So, thinking design like, you may call it design thinking. So, thinking in terms of designing the complete structure and deriving value as far as the whole situation goes. So, this is largely when we are talking of co-creation of value. Now, let us talk about value co-creation. Is it different, or it is a step ahead, or it has a different origin in terms of the thought process goes? Let's see. You see, when we are talking of co-creation of value, we are thinking in terms of deriving value at each step. When we are thinking in terms of value co-creation, we came together where values are the binding force, and that is why we came together. It's a difference basically. There we came together to derive value. Here we came together because our values have bound us together in terms of co-creating that value basically. So value co-creation has its origin in terms of values, and the S associated with values is the most important element which defines value co-creation. And you will realize that there are businesses wherein, businesses or organizations or efforts wherein beneficiaries and the proponents or the thinkers and the innovators, they come together because their values are associated with that. There are many organizations which are based on these kind of things fundamentally. There are financial companies which are associated with that. There is a financial philosophy associated with that, that you don't want to earn interest, you want to propel businesses of others, and then you would be party to the growth story which they would have. That is another part. Linux may have thought of this when free software movement was being structured and was propelled by thinkers like Richard Stallman. So, and when Linus supported that and Linux came in, so the whole process somehow is associated with value co-creation. People who were associated with similar values, that software should have, free source code or open source code, those are the values which have associated you together, so that you started co-creating. So Linux definitely was the end result of a co-creation process, and values, they were the binding factors. That is the precise thing which which we are talking of. And when we are talking in terms of values as the binding factor, then value is co-created as a derivative of values. So value is dependent upon the values which you define for that kind of a business. For example, microfinance companies basically, and my favorite is Grameen Bank. So when Grameen Bank was being structured and thought of, so Professor Muhammad Yunus, a Nobel laureate and a lauded personality who defined microfinance industry largely, his values motivated him to co-create a business around microfinance, wherein he talked to the beneficiaries and women and enabled them to become entrepreneurs with the help of microfinance, imparted knowledge of how to run businesses, how to propel businesses, and then worked with them, and whole lot of an industry came in. It's a beautiful example. If you will read these kind of stories, and you can go to any website, read about Grameen Bank Bangladesh and Professor Muhammad Yunus and his concept of, and how he realized that in due course of time by bringing in people along. Values. Amul is a big story of value co-creation, wherein Dr. Vijay Kurian wrote history in terms of actually associating so many people and so many societies to bring milk as the main product on board, processing of milk with the help of several kinds of people, distribution channels while co-creating, and those values were the binding factor in terms of creating that kind of a large organization, which now is doing wonders as far as the whole situation goes. So that is the difference between co-creation of value and value co-creation. So if we were talking in terms of co-creation of value in terms of, for example, a milk producing organization, then we would have initiated a business, and then we would have contacted the stakeholders starting from customers and defined value at every step and would have worked on that. But that story started from this side, and I remember, and I have talked about this movie in one of my videos in integrated marketing communication subject, which I released earlier. Manthan, if I remember correctly, was a movie produced largely on Amul basically, and the efforts made by Dr. Vijay Kurian. I think Mr. Girish Karnad was the main protagonist in Manthan, and Miss Smita Patil was the actress who performed there. So very good interesting movie. And largely, and then there are several videos and movies on this organization. It definitely is an iconic effort. So there are several of such organizations. Narayan Hridayalaya, for example. Dr. Devi Shetty is one of the most talked about people who actually focused upon value co-creation, values to co-creation. And you see, there is a beautiful, I think it's on National Geographic or some other platform, wherein they show that how Narayan Hridayalaya is managing their complete value system, value chain, and they have applied kind of what kind of systems, for example, probably just-in-time system is also talked about, and several other operational management systems are being talked about, which are being introduced in a hospital. Arvind Eye Care, one of the most wonderful examples in terms of, and I have talked about this organization earlier as well. So you see, they have focused upon value co-creation at large when we are talking of this kind of a thing. And one of my favorite examples, which I have been talking about now and then in almost all my subjects, and I think I have talked about this example in this subject as well, Veena Vadini School. So Mr. Virangat Sharma, he writes his name from B. Mr. Virangat Sharma actually co-created value through value co-creation. His objective was to attract people or children towards education, and then he focused upon ambidexterity as one of the main key product features on propelling that education, bringing so many students on board and teaching them how to write simultaneously with both hands in two different languages. Now that is wonderful actually, and then many a times they are also practicing writing two different languages and two different texts simultaneously with both hands. Wonderful effort that has created wonders, and I have talked about this earlier as well, and I always say that if somehow this kind of an art is replicated amongst all the students of this country, this would be a business associated with value co-creation. I was talking to one of the groups here at IIT Roorkee of young budding entrepreneurs who are seeking what kind of businesses they can go for. I told them today this is an AI world, and a lot of databases there, and a lot of methodological frameworks are there, and Mr. Virangat Sharma has been practicing this for almost 27-28 years now. You can take his help and students' help and bring them on board and introduce this amongst all the people, all the students, all the young children, to make them practice to how to write simultaneously with both hands. One, probably they would start again writing with both hands. They would love to do that. We have started using keyboards more. It is not bad, but again we would be then somehow we would be more focused upon what we are doing, and whole lot of an industry would develop out of this tutorial effort basically. So that is where value co-creation comes in. When you talk about pure beneficiary based kind of organizations, for example, Mr. Kailash Satyarthi, again a Nobel laureate. You see, there are lots of lessons which we can learn from Nobel laureates and people who are working at that kind of a level only. So, Anand Gram, for example, Baba Amte is one of the most superior examples to me, who created, co-created value through value co-creation for n number of people. You just watch his videos, and Dr. Prakash Amte and his family, and Dr. Mrs. Amte, again Raman Magsaysay awardee, they have done wonders in terms of value co-creation goes. They have created complete ecosystems out of value co-creation and pure beneficiary based kind of systems, wherein they are running them in those systems in a composite kind of a fashion. So Mr. Kailash Satyarthi has done wonders in terms of, I have been told last count was around 60 to 70,000 children he has adopted, and he is nurturing them and all through. Mr. Sudhir here at Roorkee, this small town, is teaching these kind of things to students who pick rags in the daytime, rag picking people, and he is educating them through value co-creation and making them self-sustained and self-reliant, and as far as this kind of situation goes. So there we were talking in terms of as far as thinking, design and deriving value, and here we are talking about design thinking. Thinking from this end to that end with all the value network associated, and that is precisely when we are talking of value co-creation. And you see, just at the end I would try to correlate these two as well. Many a times we see organizations traversing from co-creation of value side to value co-creation. How? When values become prominent, for example, I am in pharma industry and pharma business, and I revisit the side of what business I am into and start developing low cost medicines for people who can't afford that to eradicate disease, and my objective becomes eradication of disease, and it may come from the other side as well, you see. But then when I focus upon eradication of disease and work with doctors and work with stakeholders and work with customers and prospective, and the patients, and then I focus upon low cost medicines and generic medicines and so on, I am focusing upon value co-creation. But it may come from the other side as well. I started this way and from developing low cost medicines, but value chain and the question of value took me towards the other side, and I started focusing upon deriving value. So I may have started from value co-creation, but I would have shifted to co-creation of value at the end, and co-creation of value may also traverse towards value co-creation at the end. So it is a simplistic kind of version wherein I started from putting up value points at every levels and defining value and deriving value, and started co-creating value at every level, and then moved towards, and suddenly I realized that the real purpose of my business is somehow to focus upon how to take the benefits at the larger level, and I traverse towards value co-creation. My submission here is that innovation is all about making the process consistent and self-sustained, and or should I say consistently self-sustainably innovative. If we are making process consistently self-sustainably innovative by itself, that it propels by itself, that is innovation. If somehow we identify that we are focusing upon co-creation of value and we traverse towards value co-creation, that is innovation, because that would enhance the life of our business, and ultimate goal of innovation in marketing is to enhance the life of a business or life of something which we are doing at the end of the day in a self-propelled kind of a manner. The objective is to ingrain innovation in the DNA of the process itself. They have started calling this very popularly the DNA of the process itself. This thing is in the DNA of someone. So innovation is to be ingrained in the it should be ingrained in the DNA of the process itself, and we must stick to the values, as they say. Now quickly I would be demonstrating two examples which would define, one is co-creation of value and one is slightly towards value co-creation. So Lego toys, for example, which defines co-creation of value is that we all know about Lego toys. So this company, they somehow in early 2000s faced a difficult financial situation due to brand dilution and overextended product lines and an abandonment in traditional customers in search of new growth opportunities and so on. And a new appointed CEO defined a fresh strategy in 2004 that led the organization in a newer direction. The new strategy was driven by Lego fans, and here comes the customer based co-creation. In essence, Lego became an open source company and involved its customers in this new business adventure, elevating its innovation processes to the highest degree. So that kind of a perspective, Lego utilized to become again the toy of the century and a very large kind of an organization, wherein they defined value at each node and focused upon deriving that value. And you see, another example of co-creation of value or value co-creation for that matter is the project titled Socio-Economic Value Creation through Forest Bioresidue Based Energy Generation in alignment with UN SDGs, which me and my team propelled to an extent. And we focused upon developing a machine with the help of the beneficiaries, and that machine led us towards utilizing forest bioresidue for generating low cost energy and developing a complete process of low cost energy generation with the localized resources. You can surf about this, it is now on the web through different sources, and the source is also mentioned here. as far as the slide goes. So, this example can also justifiably tell you that if values are matched, then value co-creation sometimes or many a times happens by itself. If the moral of the story is that if you focus upon values, innovation can come up in a self-propelled manner. Remember this, keep learning about all these things and focus upon co-creation of value in relation to value co-creation and vice versa. I will be catching up with you next time with lots of interesting topics and subject areas, and would be building upon a case on marketing of innovation after this. I will be coming back to you. Till then, goodbye.